It's all been leading up to this moment. The Iowa caucuses are tomorrow, and the first round of voters will pick who they want to represent their parties in the national election. And it certainly seemed like a long road so far. Presidential candidates have been campaigning for months now, and tomorrow night they'll get the first confirmation of who the voters want to see as their picks for the party nominations. Polls have been taken all over the country for a while now, and the final set of polls out of Iowa were just released ahead of the caucuses. The final Iowa polls has Republican Donald Trump and Democrat Hillary Clinton going head-to-head in the final contest. Now, Trump muscled ahead, regaining his lead over rival Ted Cruz just before those first votes are cast. And Clinton's support inched up a couple points over Bernie Sanders ahead of tomorrow night. Now, 2 days before the caucuses, the New York Times released their picks for the nominations. On the Democratic side, they are endorsing Hillary Clinton, saying Democratic voters have the chance to nominate, quote, one of the most broadly and deeply qualified presidential candidates in modern history. As for the Republican nomination, the Times picks Republican John Kasich. The editorial board called him, quote, only plausible choice for Republicans tired of the extremism and inexperience on display in this race. So why do the people of Iowa cast their votes first? Well, it didn't really happen on purpose. After the 1968 Democratic National Convention, the Democratic Party, both nationally and in Iowa, decided they wanted to make the voting process more inclusive. Part of that meant spreading the presidential nominating schedule out in each state. Now, since Iowa's caucuses are such a complex process, it had to start really early. Now, part of Iowa code states that the caucuses, quote, shall be at least 8 days earlier than the scheduled date for any meeting, caucus, or primary. And it's important to remember that Iowa doesn't pick the president. Their voters just start the process of narrowing down the field of candidates. So as you can see, politics and history both work in mysterious ways, and the Iowa caucuses are no exception. But how does a caucus really work? Well, USA Today has this refresher explaining it all in 60 seconds.
Iowa's February 1st caucus kicks off the 2016 presidential primaries. But what is a caucus anyway? A caucus is a local political party meeting. Party members will discuss the presidential candidates and, like a primary, vote for who they want to represent their party in the general election. They will also talk about their party's platform and elect local party leaders. Republicans and Democrats each have their own caucuses that have different procedures. Republicans have a meeting and vote by raising their hands or by secret ballot. Democrats divide into groups. These groups must be a certain size for a candidate to be considered viable. Caucus goers can try to convince others to change who they support, and they can change their support midway through the caucus. Differences aside, both take a long time. Voters who stick it out will be the first to cast their votes this primary season, which will conclude with both parties picking their presidential candidates in July.
So I hope you got that. And you may be asking, if we're here in the Carolinas, why should we care about the Iowa caucuses? As we said, the caucuses are the first voting event in the nation for the presidential election. On social media, a lot of people use the hashtag first in the nation for the caucuses. But the South Carolina primary is the, quote, first in the South. So South Carolina often helps to significantly narrow down the field of candidates after the contest in Iowa and New Hampshire. Now, there are 2 different days for the South Carolina primaries. Republicans will cast their votes on Saturday, February 20th. Then it is the Democrats' turn on February 27th. And you can be sure we will be bringing you updates on everything that has to do with Decision 2016. When we're not on the air, you can get the latest breaking results sent straight to your phone using our NBC Charlotte mobile app.